Hi, I'm Larry, and you're watching UAV TV. Today we're talking about Eclipson airplanes, Model D. Now, spoiler alert, folks, this is one fantastic airplane, so stay tuned. Hey, real quick before we get started with the video, why don't you go down there and subscribe if you haven't already to help us out a little bit. Click on the bell icon, they'll send you notifications of future videos. Like it, dislike it, let us know what you think. Give us a comment down there below. Let us know how you feel about what we're doing, what the content's like. If you want us to do something different, if there's something you'd like to see, let us know. We'll do our best to make that happen for you. But at bare minimum, subscribe to our channel. Help us out with the algorithm for YouTube, and also share it with your friends. Get them to subscribe as well. Well, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about this airplane today. This is the Model D we talked about in the intro. And this is one fantastic airplane. I mean, this airplane gave me no trouble from this day I started building it to the day I flew it. And I didn't have to trim the airplane at all. It was amazing. It just flew so good. And I don't usually say that much good about an airplane, but this is a second airplane because I absolutely was not satisfied with the fact that I crashed it. And I built another one. So I really like this airplane. Now, to start with, we're going to talk about the landing gear a little bit. The original plane that I built, we had a lot of problems with landing gear, and it was all my fault. But we still had problems because I used too soft a wire. Let's go ahead and flip this thing upside down for you. The wire I used was too soft, okay? So every time I tried to land the thing, the landing gear would collapse. And when it collapsed, then the landing looked just terrible. And I wasn't happy with it at all. So I went back and I gave it a bigger size wire. And what I've done on this, now you're going to see some pictures here coming on the screen. You can see that I bent the wire down into the pant. Now I did that because I didn't want it slipping when I'm trying to turn. The original design for this airplane is just to have a straight wire glued into the pant. And that is never going to work. I've never had any success whatsoever with just gluing a metal wire into a pant. They always slip or turn or give me all kinds of trouble. So I had to do something that was going to be different. Now you're seeing some pictures here with me using the 3D minted pin. We love that pin. The thing has just a million uses, and we use it all over this airplane. So you can see from these pictures how I use the pin. And I used it in several locations on the pant, and it did a really good job. And then to smooth it out, because it doesn't print really smoothly when you're printing with a little round fiber coming out the end of the tip, I use a torch and the end of an X-Acto knife. And the X-Acto knife, when it's hot, will smooth this stuff out and turn it into something that looks really good, like you're seeing in front of you here. At least I think it does. Now on the main gear, I did something similar, except that when I drilled the hole all the way through the pant, I then put an angled bend on the wire. And I cut a little trough on the inside of the pant to allow the metal wire to get down in there flush so the wheel didn't hit. And you can see that these wheels spin perfectly. And I did that so that the pant wouldn't spin on the wire when the airplane hit a bump. Now, I also did something inside the mounting bracket of the Model D for the main landing gear. And if you look at that carefully, you can see that I put a little bend in the top of the wire, and I cut a notch in this mounting bracket, and then CA glued the top of that really well as glued it into the center line of this entire piece right here. So I took advantage of what Eclipson models thought would work and gave it my own little spin with that twist in the wire right there, that bend in the wire. And it's going to work really well. I have no doubt whatsoever that we're not going to have any problems with this landing gear, and this airplane is going to take off and land successfully, hopefully a lot of times in the future. Now as we turn this back over so you can see this profile on this airplane, I want you just to look at this thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. Eclipson really went out of their way to make a really pretty airplane. I just love the way it looks. It's fantastic. We did have a little problems with the aileron on the first model. It requires probably about a 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter rod to run through the aileron to create your hinge pin. And you're trying to glue that aileron in there to keep it from moving. Well, ours moved. And when that happened, the aileron got loose and was flopping all around. I was having a heck of a time flying it. And brought it down successfully. Folded my landing gear because it was so weak, but was able to fix that by putting a little bend in the middle of the wire that runs through the aileron, so it gives it a little bit of friction. I put some glue in there by drilling a hole in the center of the aileron right down to the wire, put some thin CA down in there, And it grabbed hold of that wire just fine, and now we don't have any problems with the ailerons moving or anything. They're going to be just fine. You can see how we did the elevator in the back, and this works really, really well. I'll activate it by hand here for you, but you can see that it does a really good job. I'll turn the servo, there you go. But does a really good job, and we're quite happy with that, and it works out really well. It's a little bit difficult to get that wire up in there, but we also did something different. We didn't use the stock wire that came with the Dubro Easy Link system. We used a smaller, a little bit harder stainless steel wire in there. Now this is a 0.88 wire, okay? It's a little bit different than what comes in the Dubro pack, so you might have to buy that separately, but it works really well. We don't have any problems with the elevator coming back to center with the servo running it, and we've got some pretty small servos in here. Pretty inexpensive ones too. These are about $3 a piece. So try and turn this around here so you can see inside the body cavity. We've used a 3D pin in there to hold things in place. The receiver's got a little bracket that I made with the 3D pin. I'm holding the wires of the ESC with the 3D pin, and the antennas from that FarSky receiver are all being held in place by using that 3D pin. It took me about 10 minutes to create this inside in here. And if you've been using it, I don't know if you're going to like this, but 3D lab print has a Q trainer, and I borrowed this from it, which is a battery holder, and that glues right inside here. Strap goes right underneath that and holds the battery in there real nice. We did that on the first plane that we built, and it worked really well. Now we got some flight footage of this airplane that we'd like you to see, and it flies really well. It's very stable. I tried to stall this airplane, and all it basically did is we had about a 10-mile-an-hour wind that day, and I was going into the wind and let the wind just bring me almost to a stop, which means the airplane was still moving at about 10 miles an hour, and all it did was kind of walk like this. It never really tip stalled, so I didn't have a problem with this airplane tip stalling. I keep talking about how I crashed it, and it's my own fault. I get these little planes too far away from me. You know, I'm a pilot that's used to be 6, 7, 8, 9 foot wingspan airplanes, and I can see them forever. And I'm used to flying in a long way away from myself. And with these guys, I just can't do it. And I got too far away from me. I can't really say what happened. I was in a left-hand bank. It went into a right-hand spiral and hit the ground. Broke in half, and the rest is history. But I don't think you'll have any problems with this airplane. It takes off really well. It'll fly extremely well on a 3-cell. We haven't done that. Based on the fact that I had to back off on the throttle to half throttle, I don't think a 3-cell is going to have a problem flying this airplane. It's just going to, I'm really comfortable going out there tomorrow and maintaining this airplane. I know it's going to take off, it's going to fly perfectly, I'm not going to have to do a darn thing to trim it out. So here's some of that flight video, and I'm going to take off now, and it's rolling down the runway really well. I'm having a little bit of trouble steering it because my landing gear is not working as well as I wanted, but it's still very controllable. And here I am lifting off, and the thing just jumps in the sky, and you can see it's just, I didn't have to trim this airplane at all. What I basically had to do was back off the throttle because I put a 4-cell in this thing, and it didn't need it. It absolutely does not need that 4-cell, and you can see that it's making really nice banks. I'm cruising around, the guys are trying to get in behind me. The airplane's flying pretty fast now, but it's starting to slow down. And as I slowed down, they're starting to get pretty close to me. You can see that they're coming in really close. It's a little bit spooky when you're on the ground watching these drones come up close to the airplane, but it gives you a better shot in the air of what the airplane's doing. Now here I am doing an aileron roll. Now I lost a little bit of altitude because I wasn't expecting it to drop as much as it did, but it's my fault for not giving it down elevator in the middle of the turn. But it does a really good job, and then I put it into a loop, and it does the loop really well too. It goes up and comes back over without any problem, and it's real stable in and out of turns. And here I am coming around, I'm trying to do some low-level passes, and we've got a guy on the ground trying to take pictures of it, but it is a fast little airplane. So it's a little bit difficult to keep up with it with a drone, and you know, to get a good picture of it on the ground. So we're working on that, but it's you can see it right here. It's very stable in the air. It's rock solid. It flies really well. I have no complaints about it at all, other than the fact that you cannot let this thing get too far away from you. Just remember, it's flying fairly quickly, so slow it down, do a lot of turns, get in an oval pattern, do whatever you have to do to keep from letting this thing get too far away from you, because it's really sad when you crash this thing. Now here I am coming in for a landing, and you can see it's a it's a decent landing, and the landing gear held up real well. I'm going to bring it back over to myself. We're going to put a new battery in and go for another flight. So hope you enjoyed the flight.